Right now, when we hear the word smoking, we usually imagine cigarettes, a small white stick, a lighter, a bad habit, a warning label. But if you go far enough back in time, smoking looked nothing like that. There were no cigarette packs, no tobacco companies, no filters, no advertisements, no modern addiction industry. There was only fire and smoke. Long before humans smoked anything on purpose, they lived beside smoke every day. Fire was one of the greatest discoveries in human history. It gave early humans warmth, light, protection, and cooked food. It helped them survive cold nights, dangerous animals, and long migrations. But fire also came with something annoying: smoke. Imagine sitting inside a cave while smoke slowly fills the ceiling above you. Your eyes burn, your throat feels dry, you cough, you move away from the fire, but you also need the fire to survive. At first, smoke was probably not something humans wanted. It was the uncomfortable price of having fire. But then, early humans noticed something strange. Smoke did more than hurt their eyes. It kept insects away. It changed the smell of food. It preserved meat. It covered the scent of a camp. It rose into the sky like a signal. And sometimes, depending on what plant was burning, it changed the way people felt. That is where the strange story begins. At some point, someone looked at a plant, looked at a fire, and had a very human thought. What happens if we burn this? That question may sound simple, but it is the beginning of experimentation. Early humans were not scientists in white coats, but they were constantly testing the world. Which plants heal? Which plants poison? Which plants smell good? Which plants make insects leave? Which plants make the body feel strange? Most of human history was trial and error. Someone burned leaves. Someone burned bark. Someone burned roots. Someone noticed a smell. Someone coughed. Someone laughed. Someone felt calm. Someone said, "Don't use that one again." This is important. Ancient smoking did not begin as modern smoking. It was not about taking a cigarette break. It was not about looking cool. It was not about brands, factories, or money. It began with fire, plants, and curiosity. And for a very long time, smoke was not separate from daily life. Smoke was part of cooking, part of warmth, part of protection, part of ritual, part of medicine, part of mystery. So when did humans start smoking? The honest answer is complicated. If by smoking we mean breathing smoke from fire, then humans have been exposed to smoke for a very, very long time. But if we mean intentionally burning plants and inhaling them for an effect, the evidence becomes harder to find. Smoke disappears, plants decay, ash gets mixed into the ground, and most ancient habits leave almost no trace behind. That is why archaeologists have to look for clues: tiny seeds, burned plant remains, residue inside pipes, ash inside ancient hearths, chemical traces on tools. One of the oldest strong pieces of evidence for human tobacco use comes from North America. Archaeologists found ancient tobacco seeds at a site in Utah connected to a hearth dating back around 12,300 years. That means people were using tobacco thousands of years before farming spread widely in that region. But even then, this was not a modern cigarette. It was a wild plant, a fire, a human group, and a practice we can only partly understand. Tobacco later became important in many indigenous cultures across the Americas. It could be used in ceremonies, offerings, medicine, diplomacy, and social bonding. In other parts of the world, people burned other plants. In Central Asia, researchers found evidence that cannabis was burned in wooden braziers about 2,500 years ago, likely in ritual or funeral contexts. Again, this was not modern recreational smoking as we imagine it today. It was ceremony. It was atmosphere. It was belief. It was a way to mark a moment. This is the key difference. Modern smoking became a commercial product. Ancient smoke was a social technology. It helped people gather. It marked rituals. It carried smells. It created moods. It made invisible ideas feel visible. Smoke rises. It disappears. It changes the air. It feels alive. To ancient people, that must have seemed powerful. A plant goes into the fire. Smoke comes out. The body reacts. The mind changes. The group pays attention. That is not just chemistry. That is meaning. And once humans discovered that smoke could affect the body and mind, the practice spread in different forms across different cultures. Some used pipes. Some used burners. Some used herbs. Some used tobacco. Some used incense. Some used smoke for healing. Some used it to speak to spirits. Some used it to connect with the group. But cigarettes came much later. The cigarette is not the origin of smoking. It is the industrial version of something much older. The strange truth is that humans did not start smoking because of cigarettes. They started because they were curious about smoke. They lived beside fire. They watched plants burn. They noticed effects. They repeated the experience. And over time, smoke became part of human culture. So when did ancient humans start smoking? Not at one exact moment. Not in one place. Not with one plant. It began slowly, somewhere between survival and ritual. Between fire and curiosity. Between accident and intention. The first smoker may not have been trying to smoke at all. Maybe they were sitting beside a fire. Maybe a certain plant was burning. Maybe the smoke smelled different. Maybe it made them feel something unusual. And maybe, for the first time, a human realized smoke was not just something fire made. Smoke was something that could change us. That is the strange truth. Before cigarettes, before tobacco companies, before modern habits, humans were already experimenting with smoke. Not because they fully understood it, but because humans have always done one thing better than any other animal. We notice something strange, and we try it again.